Hello, beautiful woman and entrepreneur. It's Blairiana here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast. This is episode 4, which means all the show notes, as well as any links that I mention, will of course be found at blairiana.com/4. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my own personal experiences of navigating the online space as an introverted entrepreneur, and how you can harness the power of your own spiritual and energetically sensitive nature to let yourself be seen and grow your business in a way that respects your boundaries and honors your unique needs. So if you've ever referred to yourself as being an introvert, shy, quiet, sensitive, or intuitive, then you are going to love this week's episode. So without further ado, let's jump in. Welcome to the Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast, the place to be for your weekly fix of divine feminine wisdom, empowered business mindset, and practical spirituality to help you break free from the hustle, find your flow, and grow your online business on your own terms, the feminine way. I'm your host, Blairiana, and it is time to get aligned. So let me just start off by saying that I really get the struggle of being an introvert in business. Oh lordy, do I get it. The struggle is real. Not only am I an introvert, I'm also an INFJ according to the Myers-Briggs personality test. I'm highly energetically sensitive. I'm a Cancerian, which means my star sign is Cancer. And oh yeah, I'm a woman, which basically means I feel all the feels all the time. Pretty much, if I'm able to get through this podcast without crying, it's a freaking miracle. And that tends to make me a pretty highly qualified candidate to speak on this topic of how exactly we thrive as introverts in the online space. So I'm wanting to share with you my own personal experiences and what I've learned through growing my business by being able to leverage my own energetic sensitivity and being able to use my kind of superpower, if you will, of being an introvert in the online space to grow a business that works in alignment for my own rhythms, my own intuitive nature, and doesn't demand that I sacrifice myself in order to quote unquote be successful online. Because looking at it, you'd think that the law of just straight up common sense would say that working online shouldn't be a natural fit for me. And to be completely honest with you, it's really not. Or at least it's not in the traditional loud, busy, hustle-based, masculine, logic-dominated way of doing business that many of us are familiar with and exhausted by. You see, when I first started my online business, I was so exhausted by the loud, never-ending noise of social media. For me as an introvert, it felt like every time I went onto social media, I would walk into a room with 1,000 people speaking at one time. It was just exhausting, and I couldn't find my own voice amongst all the other noise. And the need to constantly show up and be visible, it just made me feel chained to my business, and I felt drained having to show up online in ways that often felt very incongruent and at odds with my intuitive and energetically sensitive nature. And because I wasn't able to find my own rhythm and kind of claim my own unique space, and because I felt like I had to downplay my needs and hide my energetic sensitivity in order to try to keep up with what everyone else was doing, meant that I compromised my energy for the sake of growing my business, which forced me fundamentally out of alignment with my true self, and I burnt out pretty damn quickly. In fact, it was only within 18 months of starting my business that I found myself with, business success by many people's definition, and I was hitting a lot of the financial milestones that many people work for years in their businesses to try to achieve. But ultimately, I ended up in a black hole of fatigue, overwhelm, and really doubting if I even had what it takes to run a successful business online long term. Because as I've mentioned in previous episodes, getting quick success in business is not really all that difficult. But getting there sustainably and being able to maintain that long term, therein lies the challenge of online business, especially for introverted entrepreneurs and especially for female entrepreneurs. And when you bring the two together, it kind of adds its own level of complexity and additional demands that we experience as women and energetically sensitive women in business. Because instead of actually talking about this as a reality, instead we're sold the idea of quick success. All we tend to see online and all we tend to hear about is this kind of push to get to 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures as quickly as possible. And all we kind of see are things like the 5-step process or the number one thing you need to do to hit your first 10 or 20K month. But not a lot of people are talking about the sustainability of success. We all want the immediacy of success that often comes at a very high price. And so allow me to make an assumption here, but odds are if you've already put in the time, the energy and the money to start an online business, I'm kind of assuming that you want to be sticking around long term. So when I reached this point of burnout in my business quite early, it was then that I began to truly look at what I was doing. And I realized that even though so many other people were able to sustain the level of action and success that I was at that time, it wasn't natural for me. It wasn't in my nature to be doing that. And I saw just how much I'd been sacrificing in my efforts to quote unquote make it online, and how much I'd been ignoring the sacred wisdom of my body, the intuitive guidance of my soul, and the natural rhythms that I choose to live my life by. I wasn't doing the very things that I help my clients achieve in their own lives and businesses. And it's kind of like that old adage, we teach what we most need to learn. And I needed to get beat over the head with that lesson to really get it and start implementing it and being responsible for my own energy in that space. Because rather than seeing my sensitivity as a gift and interweaving it into my existing business strategy that I could utilize, I had instead seen it as a part of me to push aside or to be embarrassed by, or I saw it as something that would hinder my success if I really allowed myself to be my full self. And I had to downplay and ignore those parts of myself in order to keep up with everyone else. And it felt shameful for me to take time off or to have a higher need for quiet and space than most other people. And I made that mean something. I took that and I made it mean that I wasn't cut out for business, because I took the signs of my exhaustion and the fact that I needed more quiet, I needed more space, I needed more self-care, that I had higher energetic needs to be responsible for in my business. I took it as a sign that business wasn't for me, and I really began to doubt myself as a result of it. And I began to think that those parts of me weren't okay, and they needed to either be eradicated, pushed aside, or pushed through in order to play the role of the successful entrepreneur as I perceived it needed to look like. And it was this energy that was causing a split in my identity between who I am as a person and who I wanted to be or thought I needed to be as an entrepreneur. And that's what was causing the energetic misalignment in my business that was causing massive depletions to my energy resources. Because the thing is, if you're only letting yourself show up as half of yourself in business, then you only have half of you to give to the demands of business that require your full presence. So you're going to get drained very quickly because you're not accessing your full resources, because you've instead disconnected from the strengths of the parts of you that you think that you need to hide, such as your sensitivity and introversion. Because everything has balance, everything is in duality. So to the exact same extent that you perceive that your introversion, your sensitivity, your spirituality is a hindrance to your business, is the exact same extent to which it is an incredible strength in your business. And trust me, those traits do have incredible strength when channeled and used effectively in your business to get you where you want to go in a way that's entirely unique to you. So to say that you can't have success or you can't do certain things in your business because you're an introvert is to buy into the belief that there's only one way of doing business, which is simply not true. It all comes down to knowing your own rhythms and how to apply that knowledge to taking action in your business that is in alignment with your core nature and honors your needs and boundaries in business, so you don't get burnt out, stressed out, or fall into the habit of sacrificing your energy or giving away your power. And a lot of the time when I talk to female entrepreneurs who are more energetically sensitive, and to be honest, if you're in the healing or wellness industry, either as a coach or a practitioner, then you have the heart of a healer, which probably means you have an extra level of sensitivity that most other people don't experience or often understand. In fact, this is often what caused many of us to be called to the role of healing in the first place, because of us being energetically sensitive children who weren't fully understood and weren't able to fully embrace those gifts. And so whatever we suppress, we express. And that called many of us to the healing path, often for the sake of healing our own woundings and, claiming our own power. And as a result of that, wanting to bring that healing into other people's lives. So if you are on this path, if you have your own business in the healing or wellness industry, then in my mind, you have the heart of a healer. You have that level of sensitivity. Whether or not you identify yourself as being introverted, sensitive, spiritual, intuitive, it doesn't matter. Whether you identify with those is beside the point, because it's the energetic quality I'm referring to here. It's the heightened level of sensitivity, the heightened level of awareness, and the sensory experience I'm referring to, rather than any labels that we come up with to try to characterize our experiences. Because ultimately, what I'm focusing on here in this episode is the energetic quality that makes you more in tune, more aware of your environment, more aware of people, and more giving of your energy. That's what we need to be talking about and looking at, because that's the part that poses the greatest energetic leak, but also the greatest energetic strength when channeled correctly. So when I talk to female entrepreneurs who don't respond well to the strong masculine hustle mentality of online business, and they tend to find that their business and their message and their voice gets drowned out in the sea of online noise, they'll often say things to me like, well, I can't do that because I'm very introverted, or I can't be posting online every day because it takes too much of my energy. And if you're saying things like this either to yourself or out loud, then it's a surefire sign that you're following someone else's definition of success, and you're therefore employing strategies to suit that definition of success, which is causing you to do things you feel like you have to, rather than because those strategies are actually a fit for you or play to your natural strengths. Because remember, just because it worked for someone else does not mean it's necessarily going to work for you. It's about claiming ownership of yourself as your own unique individual and being able to take action in your business from that place. Because ultimately, if those actions were in alignment, they wouldn't be draining you and you wouldn't even be having that discussion. Because part of the misconception about business is that, and this is what I really kind of want you to really understand, if you take anything from this podcast, what I want you to understand is that we think business should be draining. We think it's natural and we almost expect it, that we're going to be exhausted all the time. And so we set ourselves up for that. We play into that, and therefore we create it in our lives and businesses. And we think it's normal. It's not. It's really, 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 really not. And if you're feeling that way, then something is off. Something needs to change. A part of your default way of being is not being properly utilized in your business, which is causing you to feel drained because you're feeling like you're not able to be your full self. Because the truth is, you don't need to be posting every day across 7 different platforms to grow your business or get in front of your ideal audience. In fact, that's one of the big myths of online business that causes many entrepreneurs to get content fatigue and social media burnout. We're across too many different places doing too many different things, trying to keep up with too many spinning plates, and we're going to end up dropping something. Because you see, there's actually 3 very, very important things that you need to know in order to effectively plan to thrive online. Because the thing is, when you're an introvert, when you have differing needs that are different to the vast majority of other people in the online space, when you need to train yourself to show up online and be consistent in your business, you need to actually plan to thrive. You can't expect it to just happen naturally or organically by trying to mimic the other people online who are doing things that are a natural strength to them. For a lot of extroverts, posting online every day, doing videos, running events, they can be natural things for them that do not require a huge outpouring of energy and in fact refill their energetic resources. Whereas for introverts, those things can often be depleting. So you are constantly going to be running a losing race if you are chasing other people's definition of success and employing the same strategies as them, which are fundamentally not in alignment with who you are. Because if posting on social media, speaking about your business and promoting your services is not a natural strength of yours, is not something that you naturally do, then you need to allow yourself the space to turn those things into strengths by finding ways of doing them that work for you and your sensitive nature, that bring the strengths of your introversion and energetic sensitivity out into the light in a way that feels authentic and safe. For introverts, we need to feel safe, and the online space is a scary space. It is a scary space to be. And so we need to be doing it in a way that feels safe for us, that feels congruent, but can also help us reach people that we're here to reach and serve who we're meant to serve and make the money and impact that we're here to make in our businesses as well. So let's go over the 3 core parts of effective business planning, especially for introverts. And if you identify with any of what I've mentioned so far, you're really going to want to listen to this, maybe even take some cheeky notes, because this is really, really important. Okay, so the first core component is know your energy. You need to know your rhythms and take full ownership of those rhythms and be accountable to your own energy by knowing how to work within your own energetic parameters, rather than thinking that you have to chase after extroverts to achieve their level of visibility and success. It doesn't mean that you can't achieve those levels of visibility or success. It doesn't mean that those aren't possible for you. It just means that you need to take a different path to get there, which comes from knowing your own rhythm. When is the best time to be extroverted and out there and doing the do? And when is the best time for you to be going within and being reflective and gathering back your resources for the next time that you go out into the online space? Knowing when is the best time for you to be doing a Facebook Live, when is the best time for you to be running a workshop or recording videos for social media, so you can make sure that you are working your business around those optimum times, so you're not in a position where you feel like you're having to drag yourself out of yourself or fighting against yourself every step of the way. And that applies to your own unique rhythm as a person and also your feminine rhythm as a woman. And if you missed last week's episode on working with your feminine energy in business, then I would strongly, strongly recommend that you go back and have a listen to that episode after this one by visiting blairiana.com/3. You can find the link to that episode in this episode's show notes as well. Okay, so core component number 2 is to plan ahead. This is why having a personalized strategy is really, really important to introverts in business, so that you have a personalized schedule for you to plan ahead. So on those days when you're feeling a bit more quiet, a bit more introverted, a bit more reflective, you've already got your social media post scheduled for that day, or you've already got your video ready to go out, so that you know your business is taken care of and you've created the space to solely focus on meeting your own energetic needs in whatever form that looks like for you. Because when it comes to our self-care as introverts, we actually need to be putting our full attention on replenishment. Our healing doesn't penetrate as deeply and our cup doesn't stay full for as long if our focus is split between our self-care activity and the things we think we should be doing instead, such as responding to that email, posting in our group, or adding to our Instagram feed. Having some of those tasks already scheduled out in advance means that you can be fully present with yourself and your own nourishment, thereby giving yourself space to truly receive it. And lastly, core component number 3 is have contingencies. This is really, 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 really important, especially when it comes to planning your energy around any extroverted activity that you do in business, such as webinars, radio interviews, live events, and so on. Now, these may not be things that you are necessarily implementing in your business right now, but as your business grows, as your visibility grows, and as more and more people become aware of your business and want to talk to you about what you do, things like podcast interviews, summits, and even radio shows, they almost become a natural part of your business networking and marketing. So you need to know how your energy relates to those activities so you can have contingencies in place so that you can say yes to those activities when the opportunities present themselves. So what I mean by this is, say for example, you know that you're going to be running a webinar. By knowing your own energetic rhythms and paying attention to your energy, you can plan effectively in the lead up to that event. But most importantly, you can plan effectively after the event as well, which for introverts is often our most crucial time. So you're nurturing yourself and replenishing your energetic needs to bring yourself back into alignment and restore a sense of balance after you've expended your energy. This helps prevent that stop-start, feast-famine approach to business where you go hard and push, then completely collapse because you're making the mistake of prioritizing action over energy. For introverts, it's the other way around. We need to prioritize energy over action every single time. And I'm not condemning introversion or extroversion or saying one is better than the other in business. There is no right or wrong. There is only who you are and your level of acceptance or your level of resistance to that fact. That's what will determine your level of success and how long it takes for you to get there. And I can guarantee you, one will get you there a hell of a lot quicker than the other. So to demonstrate how these 3 core elements of knowing your energy, planning ahead, and using contingencies to come together, I'm going to use myself as an example. When I get approached to be featured on podcasts, summits, or radio shows, I understand myself and my energy well enough to know that pretty much the entire day of the interview leading up to the start time, my energy and focus is going to be anchored into that event, and I'm probably not going to be able to do or put too much focus on anything else that day until the interview is done. And because I know and accept this about myself, I therefore know that it is unreasonable to expect much more from myself that day. So I plan accordingly, so I don't end up making myself wrong and feel guilty because I feel like I should be doing more than I can realistically do. I know that trying to get myself to be quote-unquote productive during the day in the lead up to the interview is just going to stress me out and zap my energy. I'm going to be feeling too scattered across too many different places to actually get anything done anyway. I know that pushing on as if it's business as usual and just treating the interview as a 30-minute blip in my day schedule is not going to work for me. And so it's not reasonable for me to expect much more from myself than I can actually give. And so my plan for that day needs to respect and reflect that understanding. And I know my own rhythms well enough to know that my day will go a lot more seamlessly and I'll have a lot more energy to give if instead of trying to do work or be on social media that day, I instead go for a barefoot walk on the grass. And I surround myself with things that I find comforting in the lead up to the interview, like making sure I've got a warm blanket on me and my favorite tea brewing and my favorite essential oils in the diffuser. I create the space that feels safe and secure for me so I can do the activity that requires more of my energy than I'm used to expending. Those little things can make all the difference when I let myself prioritize them. So when I do choose to engage in any extroverted activity as part of my business, I make conscious effort to adjust my day so I can accommodate the energetic demands of the event, not just the event itself. And this is where so many spiritual, introverted, or energetically sensitive entrepreneurs go wrong. They plan around the event without taking into account the energetic demands of the event, which often far outweigh the time requirement of the event itself. So for example, with myself, I know whenever it's in my power to control my own scheduling, and in reality, odds are if you're being interviewed on things such as summits and podcasts, then usually they're scheduled pretty well in advance. So you can most likely have a say in what day and time would work best for you and negotiate that with the host who's interviewing you. So for myself, if given the option, I'll always choose a morning time slot. So I know that all I have to do is get up, meditate, shower, breakfast, and bang. I want to be in my seat, in front of the microphone, in front of the camera, doing my thing. And by the same token, I also know that on the other side of that event, even if the interview only goes for half an hour, I know myself and I know my rhythms and I know my energy well enough to know that I'm going to be shot for the rest of the day. I'm going to need quiet while I recharge. I'm going to need space to just be for the rest of the day without any clients scheduled and without any external pressures or demands. And that's what works for me. That's what works for my business. And so I prioritize that. So that's what knowing my energy, planning ahead and having contingencies in my business looks like for me, so that I'm in full alignment with my core self and fully honoring my own introverted energy. And the purpose of this episode is to really encourage you to ask those questions for yourself. What does it look like for you? What do you need when it comes to doing things in your business that require a greater output of energy than what you're used to? And what can you do to make sure that you're able to bring more fuel to your own fire so you don't get burnt out by the energetic demands of that activity? So particularly if you're an extroverted person listening to this, or if you're quite driven, or you're able to just kind of push through, then you might be hearing this and thinking, well, Blair, that's just ridiculous. You can't take a full day off of your business just for a half-hour interview. I mean, that's just crazy. But that's the reality of being introverted, or at least that's what my reality looks like, and many of the female entrepreneurs that I work with. And that's the reality of being an energetic sensitive, and that's why having forward planning is so essential. So for me, I know quiet, self-care, and rest is what I need, and I know the cost to my energy and well-being if I let anyone else's opinion jeopardize my commitment to my own needs. And the more that you can hold on to that knowledge for yourself, the more firmly you can stand in your own power in the face of other people's objections, judgments, and expectations of how you should be in your life and business, the more that you can stay true to yourself and use your sensitivity to define your own road to success. Because often the struggle is not with your introversion or sensitivity, it's with your resistance to simply being okay with being who you are, and working with your true nature rather than against it. So you need to let go of the part of your mind that says that it's stupid or it's selfish or that you're being lazy or that you're too sensitive or that needing any of these extra measures is a sign that you're not cut out for business. because that's simply not true. And the same can also be said for someone who's quite introverted, who talks themselves out of saying yes to opportunities for business growth and visibility because they think the cost of their energy is too high, or it's too confronting, or it's too stressful. But in reality, they simply don't understand how to work in alignment with their own rhythms, to honour their needs and work with their introversion and energetic sensitivity rather than against it. And that's why having forward planning in your business around your energy levels is so absolutely essential to thriving online as an introverted entrepreneur. So you're not overloaded with tasks or having to force yourself to show up in business when you've already expended that energy elsewhere. Instead, you've planned ahead and you've taken the steps necessary to ensure your energetic boundaries and needs are met, so you can confidently say yes to those opportunities, knowing that you can plan accordingly and nurture yourself through that energy expenditure. And I think that's another thing that I really want you to be conscious of, and another thing I really want to drive home with this episode, is that give yourself permission to go beyond the label. Whenever we subscribe ourselves to a label, it becomes easy to let that label be the reason why we can't take certain actions, or gives us the excuse we need to not even try. So when it comes to being an introvert in business, it's not about making excuses. It's not about saying, well, I can't be successful online, or I can't use social media, or I can't launch my program, or I can't do interviews, or I can't speak on stage, because you think that you're either too shy, too quiet, too sensitive, or too introverted, or too whatever. It's not about letting your introversion be the reason why you can't do certain things. It's about understanding that if you're wanting to do those things in your business, then you need to be having extra levels of contingency in place so you're honouring your sensitivity for the gift that it really is. Because your sensitivity is one of the most essential and beautiful and special parts of being a spiritually conscious, heart-centered entrepreneur. And as a gift, it needs to be protected. It needs to be grounded, and you need to be able to bring yourself back in ways that feel authentic and aligned for you. So know your own rhythm, have a plan, create a personalized action plan that takes into account your unique energy signature, and if you're not sure how that looks, then get support from someone who understands how this works and how to apply it directly to your business. Get support from someone who understands introversion, who understands your sensitive nature, and understands that you need a different approach to business than what is taught by 90% of what you find online. And of course, if you're interested in how I do that for my own clients, then you are welcome to enter the competition I have running at the moment to celebrate the launch of the Aligned Entrepreneur podcast, where one lucky listener will win a 90-minute one-on-one business visioning and soul alignment session with me. Simply go to www.thealignedentrepreneur.co or click the link in the show notes, but do be quick as the competition does close on June 12, 2018. So there you have it, my top tips for thriving as an introvert in online business. Knowing your energy, forward planning, having contingencies, and also moving beyond the label to help you shine your own unique light in the online space and have your message heard by those who need to hear it. Now, as I said at the start, all the links that I mentioned in this week's episode, including the link to win the one-on-one business visioning and soul alignment session with me, can be found over at blairiana.com/4. So until next time, thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode. I'm Blairiana, and I cannot wait to see you shine your light in the way that only you can. Bye for now.